The quantum resonance array hummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, its intricate sensor network spreading across the vast emptiness of deep space like an invisible web. The HFY Horizon, a sleek research vessel that represented the pinnacle of human technological achievement, drifted silently near the heliopause of the solar system. Its hull was a marvel of adaptive materials, capable of shifting molecular structure to optimize performance in the most extreme environments. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat in the command chair, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded her. At 42, she carried the weight of decades of space exploration in every calculated movement. Her command crew was a testament to human diversity, a carefully selected team that represented the best of human potential. Dr. Marcus Chen hunched over his communication console, his fingers dancing across quantum-encrypted interfaces. Something was different about today's long-range scans. The young xenolinguist had an instinct for communication patterns that bordered on the supernatural, a skill that had made him a prodigy in interstellar linguistics. "Captain." Chen's voice cut through the ambient hum of the ship's systems. "I'm picking up an encrypted transmission." "It's unusual." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" Chen's fingers flew across the holographic interface, layers of alien encryption peeling away like digital onion skins. "It's a Galactic Council diplomatic channel, but the encryption is archaic, almost like they didn't expect anyone to be able to crack it." A collective tension filled the bridge. The Galactic Council was no myth. It was a vast, complex network of alien civilizations that had controlled interstellar diplomacy for millennia. Humanity's interactions had been limited, cautious, always under the watchful eyes of species that had traversed the stars long before humans had learned to make fire. The decryption completed with a soft chime. Holographic text materialized, revealing a communication that would change everything. The message was a classified diplomatic brief, discussing humanity in terms that made Rodriguez's blood boil. Emerging species, they called humans. Potential containment risk. The language was clinical, dismissive, the kind of bureaucratic speak used to discuss something less than sentient. Dr. Chen's translation came quickly, each word precise. The Galactic Council was preparing a preliminary intervention, a euphemism that seemed to dance between diplomatic isolation and potential military action. They viewed humans as a potential threat to be managed, not a civilization to be engaged. Captain Rodriguez's hand clenched involuntarily. She had spent her entire career pushing the boundaries of human exploration, fighting against those who saw space as a realm to be feared rather than understood. This was more than a diplomatic incident. This was a challenge. "Broadcast it," she said suddenly. Chen looked up, confused. "Mom, every human communication channel. Military, civilian, research, everything." Her voice was calm, but there was a steel underneath that brooked no argument. The bridge crew exchanged looks. This was unprecedented. This was dangerous. Dr. Chen hesitated for just a moment, then began the transmission. The classified Galactic Council documents spread across every human communication network, from deep space research stations to orbital colonies, from Earth's global networks to the furthest human outposts. The message was clear. The Galactic Council did not see humanity as an equal. They saw humans as a problem to be contained. What they didn't realize was that they had just lit the spark of a resistance that would reshape galactic politics forever. On the bridge of the HFY Horizon, Captain Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. First contact had just become something very different from what anyone had expected. The United Nations diplomatic complex in New Geneva buzzed with an electric tension that defied its usual sterile atmosphere. Ambassador Camille Okoye stood at the center of a holographic conference room, surrounded by floating data streams and real-time translation matrices that flickered with an almost living quality. The first diplomatic communique from the Galactic Council arrived precisely 72 hours after the HFY Horizon's broadcast. It was a masterpiece of bureaucratic manipulation, a document so layered with diplomatic language that lesser negotiators would have been lost in its intricate web of implications and subtle threats. Dr. Sarah Goldstein, chief legal advisor to the Human Diplomatic Corps, leaned in close to Okoye. Her augmented reality glasses parsed the document in real time, highlighting linguistic traps and diplomatic minefields with razor-sharp precision. "It's beautiful," she muttered, in the most horrifying way possible. The message was an elaborate peace offer that was anything but peaceful. On the surface, it promised integration, technological exchange, and galactic membership. Beneath the surface, it was a carefully constructed cage, a set of conditions that would effectively strip humanity of its sovereignty, technological independence, and right to self-determination. Okoye's fingers traced the holographic text. His family's history was etched into every calculated movement. Generations of African diplomats who had fought against colonial manipulation, who understood the language of power far better than any alien negotiation team could comprehend. "They're treating us like children," he said quietly, a hint of his Nigerian accent cutting through the clinical diplomatic English, "offering us a path to civilization, as if we're some primitive tribe waiting to be enlightened." The first clause was particularly insulting. It demanded that humanity submit to a technological review board, a euphemism for complete control of human scientific and technological development. Any innovation would require approval from a council dominated by species that had been exploring space long before humans had developed agriculture. Dr. Goldstein began to dismantle the document with surgical precision. Her background was a testament to human resilience. A granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, she understood the power of words as weapons. Each paragraph of the alien proposal was systematically exposed, its hidden meanings laid bare. "Look here," she pointed to a seemingly innocuous paragraph. "This clause would give the Galactic Council veto power over human space exploration. We would need permission to leave our own solar system." The holographic display began to fill with annotations, legal counterarguments, historical precedents, and devastating logical deconstructions that revealed the proposal for what it truly was: a sophisticated attempt at subjugation. Okoye's response was being crafted in real time. It wasn't just a rejection. It was a comprehensive dismantling of the entire diplomatic approach. Each word was a weapon, each paragraph a strategic strike against centuries of galactic political manipulation. "We are not asking for a seat at the table," Okoye dictated to the AI transcription system. "We are redesigning the entire concept of the table." The first draft of the response was more than a diplomatic communication. It was a declaration of human independence, a manifesto that would send shockwaves through every alien civilization that had grown comfortable with their established systems of control. As the final paragraphs took shape, Okoye and Goldstein exchanged a look of quiet determination. The Galactic Council had no idea what was about to hit them. The Quantum Dynamics Research Facility looked nothing like the sterile laboratories of previous generations. Nestled deep within the Andes Mountains, it was a living, breathing ecosystem of innovation that defied every conventional understanding of scientific research. Dr. Akira Nakamura stood before a holographic display that seemed to breathe with potential. At 35, he was the youngest chief researcher ever appointed to the facility, a prodigy whose work had already rewritten fundamental understanding of quantum communication and energy transfer. "We're not just developing a technology," he explained to his core team, a group of researchers from 12 different countries. "We're creating a new language of universal communication." The breakthrough had come from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. A neural network developed to study deep-sea communication patterns had unexpectedly revealed a method of quantum entanglement that made traditional communication technologies look like primitive smoke signals. Dr. Elena Martinez, a neurobiological engineer, manipulated a holographic projection of the new quantum network. Threads of light danced between nodes, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. "It's not just about sending information," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "It's about creating a communication system that adapts, learns, and evolves in real time. The implications were staggering. The quantum communication array they were developing could simultaneously translate, encrypt, and transmit information across unprecedented distances. More importantly, it was designed with a fundamental principle that terrified traditional power structures: complete and absolute user sovereignty. A junior researcher, Kai Wang, brought up a simulation that made the entire team pause. The network could potentially create communication channels that were invisible to existing monitoring systems, rendering every current galactic surveillance technology obsolete. "We're not just building a communication network," Nakamura said quietly. "We're building a revolution." The facility was more than a research center. It was a fortress of human potential, protected by layers of adaptive security systems that had been developed in response to the Galactic Council's increasingly aggressive posturing. Every wall could become a defense mechanism, every system a potential weapon of technological resistance. A breakthrough came during a seemingly routine test. The quantum array suddenly displayed a complexity that went beyond their initial designs. It was learning, adapting, creating communication pathways that the researchers hadn't programmed, as if the system itself was developing a form of technological consciousness. "It's responding to potential communication barriers," Martins whispered, her hands moving across the holographic interface. "It's finding ways around restrictions we didn't even know existed." The demonstration would change everything. In a controlled environment, they would show the world and the Galactic Council that human technological innovation was not something that could be contained or controlled. Nakamura looked at his team, a diverse group of researchers who represented the best of human potential. Young, brilliant, from every corner of the globe, united by a single purpose. "This," he said, his voice steady and filled with quiet determination, "is how we show them who we really are." The quantum array pulsed with an energy that seemed to whisper of unlimited potential. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. The Global Economic Summit in Singapore looked nothing like the diplomatic gatherings of the past. Holographic interfaces flickered with real-time data streams, and the central stage was dominated by Elena Cortez, an economic strategist whose reputation had become legendary in less than 48 hours. At 39, Cortez represented a new breed of global economic thinkers. Her family's history of surviving economic oppression in South America had given her an instinctive understanding of systemic manipulation that went far beyond traditional economic theory. The Galactic Council's attempt to economically isolate humanity would become their greatest mistake. "Economic blockades are relics of a linear thinking process," she began, her voice cutting through the ambient technology of the summit. "We're not going to compete within their system. We're going to render their entire economic model irrelevant." The plan was audacious. A completely decentralized economic network that could adapt faster than any existing galactic trade system. It wasn't just a technological solution. It was a fundamental reimagining of economic interaction. Dr. Raj Patel, a quantum economics specialist, demonstrated the first prototype of what would become known as the adaptive economic matrix. Holographic projections showed economic nodes that could instantaneously reroute, create, and dissolve economic pathways faster than any existing system could track. "Traditional economic warfare is about blocking resources," Patel explained. "Our system creates resources. It doesn't just move value. It generates it." The Galactic Council's initial economic restrictions were supposed to be devastating. Trade routes were blocked, communication channels restricted, financial networks isolated. Instead, human entrepreneurs and researchers turned these restrictions into an opportunity for unprecedented innovation. A startup in Lagos developed a blockchain-based trading system that could bypass traditional interstellar economic controls. Another team in Singapore created adaptive manufacturing technologies that could produce critical resources with minimal external input. A research group in Buenos Aires developed economic algorithms that could predict and counter economic manipulation with terrifying accuracy. The most striking demonstration came from an unexpected source. A collective of independent researchers and entrepreneurs created a fully decentralized economic network that could adapt its own value systems in real time. Traditional economic metrics became meaningless when confronted with a system that could fundamentally redefine value. "We're not fighting their economic system," Cortez told her team as they watched the first global demonstration. "We're making it obsolete." The economic warfare was psychological as much as it was technological. Every restriction the Galactic Council attempted became an opportunity for human innovation. Blocked rare earth mineral trade. Humans developed synthetic alternatives and recycling technologies that made the original resources irrelevant. Restricted communication channels. The quantum communication networks developed by Nakamura's team created economic pathways that were invisible to traditional monitoring systems. As the demonstration concluded, the Global Economic Summit erupted in a standing ovation. This was more than an economic strategy. This was a declaration of economic sovereignty. Elena Cortez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. The Galactic Council had attempted to strangle humanity economically. Instead, they had given birth to the most adaptive economic system in galactic history. The economic war had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The Aegis Defense Complex sprawled across the dark side of the moon, a testament to human engineering that defied every conventional understanding of military infrastructure. General Marcus Wright stood in the primary command center, his cybernetic interface seamlessly integrating with the most advanced defensive network ever conceived. "They're coming," Lieutenant Commander Aria Chen announced, her voice calm despite the holographic displays showing an approaching Galactic Council fleet. The visualization was a masterpiece of tactical complexity. Each alien vessel represented not just a potential threat, but a puzzle to be systematically dismantled. The fleet was impressive by any galactic standard. 15 massive warships, each the size of a small city, approached with what they believed was overwhelming force. The Galactic Council had sent a message, a demonstration of power meant to cow humanity into submission. They had no idea what was waiting for them. General Wright's tactical eye, an adaptive system named PROMETEUS, began its analysis. Unlike traditional military computers, PROMETEUS wasn't just processing data, it was actively learning, predicting, and creating counter-strategies in milliseconds. "Defensive grid activated," Chen reported, but it was more than a simple defensive system. Adaptive nanolayers across the lunar complex could transform from passive shielding to active countermeasures faster than the alien sensors could comprehend. The first wave of alien attack drones approached. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. Prometheus didn't just defend. It turned the entire attack into a complex psychological warfare operation. Holographic decoys materialized. Quantum entanglement technologies created impossible sensor ghosts, and adaptive camouflage systems made human defensive positions virtually undetectable. Alien weapon systems found themselves targeting nothing, or worse, their own supporting vessels. Targeting computers went haywire. Communications became scrambled, and what was meant to be a show of force became a demonstration of human technological superiority. "They're using standard Zorn-class attack protocols," Lieutenant Chen observed. "Completely predictable." General Wright's cybernetic interface allowed him to see the battle in ways no biological entity could comprehend. Each alien attack was not just neutralized but transformed into a learning opportunity. Prometheus was collecting data, understanding alien military thinking, adapting in real time. The most terrifying moment came when the alien flagship attempted its primary assault. Instead of being destroyed, the ship found itself caught in a complex quantum interference field. Its systems began to shut down, not through direct attack, but through a sophisticated technological manipulation that made traditional warfare look like children's games. "Complete system neutralization," Prometheus reported. Its voice was neither triumphant nor emotional, simply factual. In less than 17 minutes, the entire Galactic Council fleet had been rendered completely inoperable. Not a single human weapon had been fired. Not a single human life had been threatened. As the last alien vessel drifted helplessly, General Wright turned to Lieutenant Chen. "Send a message," he said quietly. "We are not your enemy, but we will not be your victims." The message was clear. Humanity's defensive capabilities were not just advanced. They were revolutionary. The military standoff was over before it had truly begun. The grand diplomatic chambers of the Galactic Council had never witnessed such chaos. What had once been a pristine, centuries-old meeting space now buzzed with a tension that threatened to tear the entire political structure apart. Ambassador Zara Cole of the Riverian Collective stood at the center of the maelstrom. Her iridescent skin flickered with emotional wavelengths that would have been illegible to human observers, but spoke volumes to her fellow alien diplomats. She was about to do something unprecedented, challenge the very foundations of galactic political order. "The humans are not what we believed," she began, her translation matrix rendering her words with a clarity that cut through centuries of diplomatic obfuscation. "They are not a species to be managed. They are a force we have spectacularly underestimated." The chambers erupted. Delegations from various alien species began to fracture. The Krell-Nax representatives argued for immediate military action. The Quantum Collective proposed complete technological isolation. The Silicon Concordat suggested a more nuanced approach of observation and strategic engagement. A holographic transmission materialized. The defector, Counselor Rix Tan, once a high-ranking member of the Council's inner diplomatic circle, now stood as a testament to the fundamental shift happening across galactic politics. Rix Tan's story was complex. A lifetime of serving the Council's established order had been shattered by humanity's unexpected resistance. The classified documents, the technological demonstrations, the economic adaptability, they revealed a fundamental truth that the Council had refused to acknowledge. "We have been gatekeepers," Rix Tan said, his voice carrying the weight of generations of political manipulation, not protectors. "We have controlled emerging species, not guided them." The transmission detailed decades of systematic suppression, how the Council had manipulated technological exchange, controlled economic pathways, and essentially stunted the growth of emerging civilizations. Humanity was not the first to be targeted, merely the first to successfully resist. Ambassador Zara Cole found herself at a crossroads. Her own species had risen through similar struggles generations ago. The human resistance resonated with a deep historical memory of oppression and eventual liberation. "They have not just rejected our control," she argued to the increasingly fragmented Council. "They have exposed the fundamental lie of our entire political structure." Diplomatic channels began to break down. Species that had been silent allies for centuries suddenly found themselves questioning everything. The human resistance had become a catalyst for a much larger conversation about galactic governance. The most shocking moment came when the Quantum Collective's primary representative made an unexpected declaration. They would welcome direct technological exchange with humans, bypassing the Council's traditional mediation entirely. "We recognize innovation," the representative stated. "The humans have demonstrated a capacity for adaptive thinking that surpasses our most sophisticated predictive models." Behind the political drama, a more profound transformation was occurring. The rigid hierarchical structure that had defined galactic politics for millennia was crumbling. Humanity had not just challenged the system, they had exposed its fundamental weaknesses. As the diplomatic session descended into controlled chaos, one thing became clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Council was breaking apart, and humanity had become the unexpected catalyst of its transformation. The Global Human Diplomatic Convention Center in New Delhi was a marvel of architectural and technological integration. Its adaptive architecture could transform in real time, reflecting the dynamic nature of the gathering it was about to host. Ambassador Camille Okoye stood at the center of a holographic stage that stretched across multiple continents and orbital stations. Behind him stood a diverse panel of human experts, scientists, economists, military strategists, cultural leaders, each representing a different facet of human potential. "We are not here to negotiate," Okoye began, his voice carried by quantum communication networks that bypassed every existing galactic communication protocol. "We are here to redefine the very concept of interstellar cooperation." The presentation was a masterpiece of strategic communication. Each section was carefully crafted to do more than just reject the Galactic Council's proposals. It was designed to dismantle the entire existing framework of interstellar diplomacy. Dr. Sarah Goldstein unveiled the legal framework, a comprehensive document that systematically exposed the manipulative practices of the Galactic Council. It wasn't just a rejection, it was a comprehensive indictment of centuries of systemic oppression. Dr. Akira Nakamura demonstrated the technological capabilities that had been developed. Holographic displays showed quantum communication networks, adaptive economic systems, and defensive technologies that made the Council's most advanced systems look primitive. The economic strategy, presented by Elena Cortez, was perhaps the most revolutionary. It proposed a completely new model of interstellar economic exchange, one based on mutual development, open innovation, and absolute technological sovereignty. General Marcus Wright's segment was a clear, unequivocal demonstration of human defensive capabilities. The recording of the neutralized Galactic Council fleet played in the background, not as a threat, but as a simple statement of fact. "We do not seek conflict," Wright stated, "but we will not be controlled." The most powerful moment came from an unexpected source. A montage began, images from every corner of human civilization. Scientific breakthroughs, cultural achievements, moments of human resilience and innovation. It was a visual argument more powerful than any diplomatic statement. The proposal that followed was revolutionary. Humanity was not asking to join the Galactic Council. They were proposing an entirely new model of interstellar cooperation. Key points included: absolute technological sovereignty, open source innovation exchanges, elimination of hierarchical control structures, comprehensive protections for emerging civilizations, completely transparent diplomatic and economic interactions. "We are not seeking permission," Okoye said in the presentation's final moments. "We are extending an invitation to reimagine what interstellar civilization can be." The transmission was sent across every known communication channel. No encryption, no restrictions, a complete open declaration that would be received by every species in the known galaxy. It was more than a rejection. It was a reimagining of galactic civilization itself. As the presentation concluded, the holographic displays showed real-time global and orbital reactions. Cheers erupted from research stations, diplomatic centers, and cities across Earth and human-controlled territories. The Galactic Council had attempted to contain humanity. Instead, they had unleashed a force that would fundamentally transform galactic civilization. The observation deck of the Interstellar Research Station Horizon hung in the delicate space between Earth's orbit and the vast emptiness beyond. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood silent, watching the holographic representations of galactic political shifts that seemed to pulse with living energy. It had been 6 months since humanity's definitive rejection of the Galactic Council's control. The aftermath was nothing short of revolutionary. 3 alien civilizations had already approached humans with genuine proposals for technological and cultural exchange. The Quantum Collective had submitted a comprehensive research collaboration that promised to advance scientific understanding by decades. The Reverian Collective's diplomatic mission was led by Ambassador Zara Cole, who had become a vocal advocate for the new interstellar paradigm humanity had proposed. Dr. Marcus Chen reviewed the latest communication logs. The quantum communication network they had developed was now being studied by emerging civilizations as a model of open-source technological development. What was once a defensive technology had become a bridge of understanding. It was never about conflict, Chen explained to a group of young researchers gathered around him. It was about creating a system of genuine mutual respect. The most profound changes were happening beneath the surface of diplomatic interactions. The economic models developed by Elena Cortez had spawned entirely new approaches to resource sharing and technological development. Research stations across multiple star systems were now collaborating in ways that would have been impossible under the old Galactic Council structure. General Marcus Wright oversaw the final decommissioning of the most aggressive defensive systems. They were no longer needed as a shield. They were being transformed into tools of exploration and protection for emerging civilizations. A transmission came through from the newly formed Interstellar Collaborative Research Initiative. A dozen species were now working together on projects that would have been unimaginable 6 months earlier. The human approach, transparency, open innovation, absolute sovereignty, was becoming a new standard. The most unexpected development came from the edges of known space. Emerging civilizations that had been systematically suppressed by the old Galactic Council were now finding voices, technologies, and opportunities. Humanity had not just challenged the system, they had provided a blueprint for liberation. Ambassador Camille Okoye reviewed the latest diplomatic reports. What had begun as a confrontation was becoming a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation. The rigid hierarchies were dissolving, replaced by a more fluid, more dynamic approach to galactic interaction. Dr. Sarah Goldstein's legal frameworks were being adopted as standard protocols for first contact and interstellar collaboration. The complex legal documents she had crafted were becoming a new foundation for diplomatic interaction. On the observation deck, Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of reflection. The journey had been about more than technological superiority or diplomatic resistance. It had been about demonstrating a fundamental truth, that diversity, innovation, and mutual respect could reshape entire civilizations. The holographic displays continued to shift, showing the dynamic new networks of cooperation spreading across the galaxy. What had once been a rigid, controlled system was now a living, breathing network of potential. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had invited it to become something more. As the first light of a new solar cycle began to crest over the Earth, the promise of a truly collaborative future stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibility.